This Week with Bob Mueller on News 2.
This week.
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
President Biden explains his decision to leave the presidential race.
Among the endorsements, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Governor Josh Shapiro of must-win Pennsylvania.
Democrats embrace their likely new presidential nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris.
It's really inspiring. As a little kid, you never saw Black people in these positions.
Tennessee Democrats are among the first in the nation to endorse Harris for president.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history.
This is not the first time a sitting president has bowed out of a re-election bid. The last time, 56 years ago. More in our This Week cover story. Hello again and welcome to another edition of This Week. Under mounting pressure from his own party, President Biden ends his re-election bid. The last time this happened more than half a century ago. More in our This Week cover story. Vice President Harris is no stranger to Tennessee. We look back on some of her visits here, but we begin with Vice President Kamala Harris already securing enough Democratic delegates to become her party's presidential nominee.
What started as a snowball effect of Democrats calling on President Joe Biden to step aside from seeking re-election has turned into an avalanche of support for Vice President Kamala Harris. Among the endorsements, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Governor Josh Shapiro of must-win Pennsylvania. Harris today stepped into former Biden campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware, transforming it into Kamala HQ with her boss's endorsement. Biden, who's isolating while recovering from COVID, called in.
We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do, everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe. Oh.
Harris then went after former President Donald Trump, leaning into her experience as a former prosecutor.
In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, campaigning solo in Ohio today, calling this latest political shakeup anti-democratic.
And a couple of elite Democrats got in a smoke-filled room and decided to throw Joe Biden overboard. That is not how it works. That is a threat to democracy, not the Republican Party, which...
The former president remained out of sight. Among the notable endorsements, AFL-CIO, which represents 60 labor unions. And in the first 24 hours of this Harris campaign, her team says it raised more than $81 million, noting it's the largest single-day total in U.S. history. Cristian Cordero, ABC News, the White House.
Tennessee's Democratic delegates were among the first in the country to formally endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for President of the United States. In less than 48 hours, she gained enough delegates to become the Democratic nominee. Here is State Capitol reporter Tori Gessner.
It's a bold endorsement ahead of the official nomination, but DNC party leader, elected official delegate Frida Player of Nashville says Vice President Kamala Harris is qualified to be the President of the United States.
She's held local, state, federal offices. She's been vetted. She's run before. She knows what it takes to run in the White House. She actually works in the White House. So she has the experience.
Tennessee's Democratic delegates officially backed Vice President Harris as president during a call yesterday afternoon, which was planned before President Joe Biden announced he won't be running for a second term. During the call, Biden endorsed Harris to take his spot, and Tennessee's 70-plus Democratic delegates followed suit, among the first in the country to do so.
We were excited that it brought new energy. We knew what energy was going to bring to young people. And to new voters and current voters who've been, apathetic.
But in an open convention, the Democratic spot on the ticket could be anyone's game. While it's possible possible another candidate could try to challenge Harris for the nomination, Player argues it's much easier to transfer the majority of the Biden infrastructure to the Harris campaign. The decision didn't come without lively discussion and a lot of thought. Hendrell Remus, chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party, says a lot of delegates were worried about the process of choosing a new nominee after Biden backed out, but they ultimately agreed Harris would be the best person for the party and Tennessee.
With a Republican supermajority in Tennessee, having a strong Democratic administration in the White House, having Democrats in charge in Congress, is our only real hope for getting something done for the folks here in Tennessee who need relief so much.
Tennessee Republicans believe the opposite. Senator Marsha Blackburn arguing Harris as president will bring, quote, the same old Biden-Harris policies that have made the lives of hardworking Americans more difficult. Both she and Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty say if Biden isn't fit to run for re-election, he's not fit to be president, calling on him to resign immediately. Reporting in Nashville, I'm Tori Gessner.
Vice President Harris spent time in Middle Tennessee over the last few years. News 2's Corey Johnson takes a look back at her visits and how students at a local HBCU are emphasizing voting ahead of the election.
Kamala Harris is no stranger to Middle Tennessee. In 2023, she traveled back to Nashville to support the Tennessee Three. The VP showed up to Fisk University to support state representatives Gloria Johnson, Justin Jones, and Justin Pearson after they faced expulsion for protesting on the House floor following the deadly Covenant School shooting.
Democracy says you don't silence the people. You do not stifle the people. You don't turn off their microphones when they are speaking.
In 2022, she was the commencement speaker at Tennessee State University.
Graduates, we need you. We need you to run companies and make decisions about who has access to capital. We need you to serve at the highest levels of government and determine our country's standing in the world. We need you.
The university also gave her an honorary doctorate.
It's really inspiring. As a little kid, you never saw Black people in these positions other than former President Barack Obama. But you never seen Black women in these positions.
Sydney Williams is a TSU student and the chapter president of the Alpha Psi chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It's the same sorority Harris is a part of. Williams says there are efforts in the works to get students at the HBCU registered to vote regardless of the candidate. As for those backing Harris, campaigning efforts are also happening online. On Sunday, 44,000 women, including some from Middle Tennessee, joined the Win with Black Women Zoom call made up of Black women leaders across the country. They raised roughly $1 million in support of the vice president. The group is now trending on Facebook. Another call is set for tonight. Corey Johnson, News 2.
After he ended his re-election bid, some Republicans began calling for President Biden to resign. Washington correspondent Maddie Beertemple reports on Republicans' efforts in Congress and Democratic pushback.
House Speaker Mike Johnson wants President Biden to step down from office after he announced he won't seek another term.
We are suggesting and calling upon him to resign and do the right thing for the country.
Johnson says if the president isn't fit to run for re-election, he shouldn't serve 6 more months.
He has the nuclear codes. He has major decisions that he has to make every single hour of every day, and he does not have the faculties to do so now.
Others are taking the calls a step further. South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace's resolution calls on the vice president to take steps to remove the president.
Encouraging Kamala Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment. I mean, look, this is common sense.
Congress can't constitutionally start that process. The 25th Amendment lays out a way for the vice president and cabinet to remove a president if they say he's unable to perform his duties.
It's very difficult to do, number one, but we should be consistent in applying his ability to lead.
But Democrats say that's not going to happen.
Joe Biden is going to continue to do a great job between now and the end of his term.
Virginia Senator Tim Kaine says the president stepped aside
because he needs to pass the torch for the next term, not for the next months.
While Democrats figure out who to pass that torch to, with many endorsing Harris.
Are we ready to re-elect President Donald J. Trump again?
Republican vice presidential pick Senator J.D. Vance is hitting the campaign trail for Trump. In Washington, I'm Maddie Beertemple.
Now to our This Week cover story. After weeks of political turmoil, Vice President Kamala Harris has taken the reins of the Biden campaign. With his announcement Sunday, President Joe Biden joins an exclusive club of sitting presidents who chose not to seek re-election. To remember the last time it happened, you'll have to go back 56 years.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office.
Good evening, my fellow Americans.
It was the last day of March 1968, a Sunday, and President Lyndon Baines Johnson was about to make history.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
The larger-than-life Texan who assumed office after President John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963 shocked the nation with his announcement. Much like today, it came at a time fraught with tension. The Vietnam War was raging overseas, and just days after Johnson's announcement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was gunned down in Memphis. In 1952, Harry Truman made a similar decision. Entering the Korean War, among other unpopular moves, left Truman with the lowest job approval rating on record, 22%.
I have served my country long and I think efficiently and honestly. I shall not accept a renomination. I do not feel that it is my duty to spend another 4 years in the White House.
Presidents Teddy Roosevelt and Calvin Coolidge also decided not to run for another term. But President Biden's decision does stand apart from those of his predecessors, all of whom served more than 4 years in office. Johnson, Truman, Roosevelt, and Coolidge all assumed the presidency following the death of an incumbent, became president in their own right by getting elected, and then declined another term. Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment.